Hey, Anton. Yes, all is good. Thanks. You? Good. No worries. Perfect.
Hi all, can you hear me as a sound check? Very well, yeah, very well on my side, very well indeed. How are you?
Hi, Joe. I think we've got everyone in. Can you hear me? I think good. Thank you very much, Margaret. I think we need to make. I need to make Louise a presenter. Bear with me for just a second, please, Louise. Let me work this out somehow. Perfect.
I'm here, Anton. Thank you.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for joining us, everyone. Really appreciate it. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this call. This is our 168th session, I believe, of our Startup Talent Q&A. It all started just over 4 years ago now, on the, when was it? On the 29th of March, 2021. And since then, we've had over 280,000 people that have joined us through these rooms. And obviously none of that would have been possible without people like Margaret, Louise, James, and Lewis. So please feel free to drop your LinkedIn in the LinkedIn URL in the chat, panelist, just in case anybody wants to reach out. It's the least we can do, I guess. So why are we here? You see, unfortunately, over 90% of startups fail. And the top 3 reasons for that are 1, market fit, 2, running out of money, and 3, not having the right people. But when you think about it, deep down, it's all about people, because if you have the right people, they'll know what to do about the other issues as well. And I've got 4 amazing talent people with us today who've been there and done it. And they're willing to take questions you may have in terms of that talent journey of yours. The idea is quite simple. You see, if you've got any questions, all you have to do is drop them in the chat. We'll give you the mic, and then you can fire away with your question. Now, for those of you that are on the live streams, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please remember that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there. So you'll have to join us here on Microsoft Teams call in order to for us to be able to hear your question. And by the way, panelists, if you don't mind, I think one or two of you are unmuted and it's creating quite a bit of an echo for me for some reason. So if you can mute, I'd really appreciate that. And so yeah, if you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, please remember that we can't monitor your questions there live. So if you do want to ask our panelists anything, simply go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club. Look at today's session, which is, and it's easy to find it. Just simply scroll down a little bit and you'll see Startup Talent Q&A 168. You scroll down a little bit, click on that, join, and then you'll get an email after a quick registration. You'll get an email that reaches your, with a link basically. And through that link that comes to your email, you can then tune in and join us here. Once you're here, there are literally no wrong questions and there's no need to be shy. It's a learning curve for us all. Your question can be in anything to do with talent. So whether you want to know how and where to find the right people, how to build your culture, perhaps how to develop people, even with practical things such as how do you do a job spec? How do you decide what skills should somebody have for a certain role? How do you interview somebody? And all that jazz. If, however, your questions today are not on talent, please save them for the other conversations we run. Mondays it's talent, Tuesdays product and tech, Wednesdays growth, Thursdays fundraising, second Friday of each month it's UK startup law, and third Friday of each month it's UK startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and they're all available via our website, startuptoscaleup.club. Now, without further ado, I think it's time to get on with the program. So just a quick reminder in terms of the agenda, we'll go through some quick introductions, then some do's and don'ts when it comes to early stage hiring, and then we'll open it for questions from the audience. And in the end, we'll have some parting words from our amazing panelists. So without further ado, my name's Anton Call. I'm an Albanian in London working with startups. Normally, right after they get investment, I embed within their teams and help them hire and keep the right people. I also do some growth advisory work with some other startups and accelerators and help some angels and family offices with their due diligence and assessment. We'll start with the ladies, so we'll go with Margaret, Lou, and then Lewis and James, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Margaret Bui. I've been working in the talent space for 2 decades, mostly recruiting for tech companies of different sizes as an internal recruiter, hiring really across all different corporate functions and engineering and product, both for tech startups, Series A, B, C, and D, and large tech companies as well, and very internationally, a lot in Europe, but also in the US. Apart from that, I do interview training and interview coaching, and I'll be happy to help with anything related to primarily hiring and interviewing.
Hello, I'll jump straight in. My name is Lou. Hi, everyone. My background is in startups from sort of seed up to Series C, as well as some more well-known global brands like Airbnb, where I was with them through hypergrowth. Very interesting period. Now I own the Culture Craft, and we work with startups up to Series C to help them take the woolly out of culture and build it as a product or an operating system for how people get work done. So we apply product principles, work in sprints to keep things very disciplined, tighten scope, and making sure that culture is something that actually helps work get done and helps people do their best work.
We're on to myself now. Assume so. So, hi everyone, my name's Lewis Evelyn. I have over a decade's experience leading in-house TA teams for global fintechs and billion-dollar AI startups and scale-ups. I now run my own exec search agency. We're called Olive Digital Partners. We partner with high-growth fintechs and AI companies across primarily the UK and the US, helping them scale from Series A through to IPO.
Amazing. And my name is James Peters. Been in sort of the recruitment space, over the last sort of 2 decades or so, starting out initially on the agency side, going in-house, worked for, or currently now work for Cisco, building out product and engineering teams, focusing mostly AI and machine learning across the EMEA. Have worked at Meta before, building out AI research teams at executive level. Have worked at Microsoft as well, but have also in the past been a partner within an embedded talent consultancy, where we used to partner with predominantly sort of, well, me personally, predominantly sort of Series A businesses in London. Sometimes it could have been Berlin or Helsinki straight after funding. And I would go and work with the CEO and really start help building their sort of initial product engineering teams after that initial investment. And so, yeah, that's myself.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you very much, Sim. That's some brilliant backgrounds there. And I'm sure we'll try and make use of them somehow. How about some do's and don'ts? I'm sure throughout your years, but also lately, you've seen some pretty silly stuff, but also some impressive stuff. What would you say is one do and one don't that really matters to you when it comes to early stage hiring, or mind you, early stage talents in general, not just hiring? And if we can use sort of different reasonings for both do and don't rather than use the same one, that would be great. So maybe we can start. Let's start with Lewis. Then we'll go to Margaret, then James, and then Lou, please. One each, if that's okay.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Was it Lou or Lou?
Oh, sorry. I
Lou or
think
Lewis?
it was a Lewis. I just noticed. You go ahead, Lewis. You go ahead. All
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Don't worry, no need to fight.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So one of the biggest, not lessons, but one of the biggest learnings, let's say, that I have, that I really educate founders with, is when you're initially building from seed or even Series A up until circa 20 employees, is to hire slow, but to fire fast. So what do I mean by that? Hire slowly, not rushing the process. Yes, time to fill and time to hire and all that good stuff is important as you move and sort of mature from Series A and beyond. But when you're first initially building your teams, the first few hires, the first 5, the first 10 hires are absolutely key in terms of building your North Star, in terms of guiding principles, your values. And Stephen Bartlett talks about it a lot, but these are initially the guys and females that are going to carry the torch in terms of champion the type of business that you want to build from a culture perspective. So that covers the hire slowly part. And then firing fast is, and hopefully there's not too many of these that occur, but naturally they will. When you make the wrong hire, it's almost like to be quite candid, a cancer in the business, leaving that person in your business if they're not performing, if they don't fit the culture. So that's exactly what I mean by hiring slowly and then firing fast in the early stages.
Okay, so I think that's my turn. So in terms of one do, I would say build a structured hiring process even at an early stage. So those unstructured interviews, they may feel faster or more like gut-driven, but they really introduce unconscious bias, very inconsistent evaluation, and more hiring mistakes. So when you have a structured process, it leads to faster, fairer, and more predictive hiring. And it doesn't mean that it has to be a long process at all. But basically, like, use a consistent set of questions per role. Don't reinvent the wheel with every candidate. So use a structured interview guide, also with some situational and behavioral questions tied to the key competencies competencies for the position, and also like clarify like what are you actually evaluating someone against? Is it problem solving? Is it ownership? Like what are these competencies? And even if it's just you and a co-founder, you know, agree on what each interviewer is assessing, so you're not all asking the same thing. So, for example, interviewer A would be maybe looking at technical skill and past results, and interviewer B might be looking at values alignment and communication style. So it could be actually very, very simple. And then document candidate responses and scores immediately. So if you have an ATS, great, but otherwise you can just maybe create a simple scorecard in Notion, Google, or Google Sheet. So yeah, and then compare notes after all the interviews to avoid biasing others. So that's what I would say for do. And in terms of don't maybe rush to fill a seat, because it's very tempting to hire just like kind of anyone when not anyone, but you know, it's very tempting to hire someone when the pressure is high. But when you rush, that can actually lead to mishires, poor onboarding, and wasted time and money and morale, you know. So yeah, like you know, basically like if you rush, you risk that you hire someone with the right skills but the wrong motivational values. You know, you also lower the bar just because you're tired of interviewing, and also you skip the red flags and convince yourself that you can coach them into it. You know, so that actually could be very expensive. So basically, like you know, if you're not sure, like using interim solution, contractors, freelancers, you know, temp support can give you some breathing room while continuing to search for the right long-term hire. And also like track your pipeline metrics, right? Like a sales funnel, like how many candidates in screen and then test and final, you know. Yeah, if the conversion is low, then pick top of the funnel, not your standard. So yeah, one do and one don't.
Wonderful. And from my perspective, so a do for me is to hire for resilience and adaptability, not just sort of shiny CVs. So in early stage startups, what I found is that, you know, roles evolve really quickly and can be weekly. So the best hires I saw are the ones who really can thrive in that chaos and learn fast and solve problems without needing that constant direction. And a don't for me is, you know, don't copy big company hiring practices. Seen this a lot. You know, startup isn't Google. You know, you don't need the perfect fits. You need builders. So people who really can roll up their sleeves, take ownership, create structure where none exists at the moment. You know, hiring for comfort over capability really kills momentum. And those are the two for me.
And I will finally add, do get your leadership structure and discipline right from the outset. So one of the things that I always recommend and help leadership teams implement is EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. It is something you can run in your entire business. But even if you're just using that at a leadership level, it's very simple at its core, but actually it creates clarity, discipline, and the anchors for every piece of work that you're doing, including when it comes to hiring. So what that tends to avoid is, as your team grows, you get more managers or more leaders in the business, and bums on seats become the solution to all of the problems. It forces proper decision making. It keeps you focused on solving problems and not just FYIs and business cases for more headcount. So if you haven't read the book Traction, that is an absolutely brilliant one I think all founders should read. And the system in itself might sound complex when you call it a system. It is so simple at its core, but it's the discipline that it brings to your team from the outset. You don't need to have a leadership team. I'm a team of 2 people right now, and I use it to keep me focused. And then I would say don't compensate for budget constraints when it comes to salary with big job titles or more senior positions that will come back to bite you in the arse at some point when you really start to grow, and you're either trying to take something away from somebody, or it feels like that, or that, you know, that person with a more senior job title, it's well known, can use that to springboard into another company, another role on a much bigger salary. So it's tough and it is very hard when you don't have those budgets, but it doesn't solve the problem for long enough, in my experience, to solve it that way.
Thank you very much for that, everyone. Those were some brilliant do's and don'ts. I think we now have 41 minutes to go. That means we've got time for a few questions. There's quite a few questions that were sent in to us, but I was hoping some of them or some others would join us live instead to make this conversation a bit more interesting. And definitely you'd get more value, because we can then at least ask follow-ups and kind of have a conversation in terms of you getting more tailored answers. But nevertheless, let's go forward. So maybe just a quick reminder to everybody, what we're doing here is Startup Talent Q&A 168. We're here to help founders with whatever questions you may have in terms of that talent journey of yours, whether you want to know how and where to find the right people, maybe how to keep them, how to build a culture, or even specific things such as how do you get a job spec done? Where do you search for a certain role or caliber of candidates? How do you assess somebody? How do you interview them? And all that jazz. There literally are no wrong questions, and there's no need to be shy. We are, however, only going to be here for the next 40 minutes, so I'd urge you to drop your questions in the chat ASAP, and then we'll give you the mic. On the other hand, just a quick reminder to those of you on the live streams, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, please be aware that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So if you'd like to ask our brilliant panelists anything, you'd have to go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club. Scroll down a little bit, you'll find today's session, Startup Talent Q&A 168. Click join, it's a quick registration. That gets you a link to your email, and through that link, you can then tune in here. It's audio only, which means you can join us from anywhere via any platform or device. And when you're here, then simply drop your question in the chat. We'll give you the mic and you can ask our team. We'll now go on to our first question. So, a co-founder of a seed stage edtech startup in Inverness that develops learning tools for children with special needs. He says, as we begin hiring for full-time educational and tech roles, I want to ensure we present an authentic and appealing employer brand despite our limited resources. What are some cost-effective ways to highlight our mission and inclusive culture in our job postings? Furthermore, how can we leverage our current team's experiences to organically communicate our brand, making it appealing to professionals passionate about special education? Now, I've looked them up. I can't find their website, but I did find her on LinkedIn, and it looks like there's only 2 other people in the company, or at least that's what it says on LinkedIn. But nevertheless, let's see what the team here has got to say. I guess there's 2 main questions here. Literally, what can we do for next to zero money or zero money in terms of mission and culture within the job posts? And 2, how can we use our team to be our ambassadors instead of spending loads of money on, I don't know, adverts and what have you? How about this? We'll start with James, then we'll go to Lou, then Margaret, and last but not least, Lewis, please.
Amazing. Well,
and
great
if we
question.
can take about, I'm really sorry to interrupt, James. This is very rude of me. If we can take about a minute each, please, team.
No problem at all. Well, first off, obviously, you have a fantastic mission here, and thanks so much for the question. So to keep it short, so I would really start with the people already in the business. Obviously, I know I'm a little unsure of how many people there are, but I would start with them, having them. I've done this in the past too with startups, get them to record short, raw videos of your team and why they joined the business and why they bought into the mission. It doesn't need to be overproduced. It doesn't need to be really polished. It just can be raw footage of them speaking passionately and authentically, which is a great tool you can use. Focus on impact. So you're helping children with special needs. That's purpose, and purpose really is magnetic, I find. So the right people will really lean into that and really buy into the kind of the heart and the mission behind the work. And yeah, I think it's just being able to, you're not going to be able to, obviously compete on budgets, big companies and all that type of stuff, but you can definitely lead with mission and authenticity. And yeah, I'd first sort of tap in on that kind of raw video footage and keep your your job descriptions quite succinct as much as possible, and just describe the type of or kind of person that would fit your business and the mission. So that's it for me.
Hello. A few things. This is a really interesting one. I think I completely agree with that vision, mission, purpose, banging that drum quite endlessly so people really understand what it is you do, and the value in their work. I think storytelling I've seen be a really great one, where you're a purpose-led organization. So one of the businesses I worked with before, we had, they were more on the healthcare side, we had some patient stories. And while, externally communicating them is probably a non-starter for most, but internally, even sharing that, in this case, if it's with children, or their parents, that can talk about the impact and really organically motivating people to want to talk about that and feel proud of the work that they're doing. I think one thing to be conscious of is EVP, so your employee value proposition versus employer branding. I've seen businesses, when it comes to employer branding, communicate something very differently externally to how people really felt about, the what's in it for them internally. That can have quite the opposite effect. So I would just say, whatever you're going to do, make sure it is, like you said, genuinely authentic. And I think the best way to be able to articulate that is by asking your people. Surveys are great. I always say they're a starting point. So do whatever way you can, get in front of your people, skip level meetings. Is there objectivity that you can bring into asking people really what their experience has been? And finally, I would say one of the pet peeves that I have is kind of when it comes to benefits, fleshing it out with stuff that's not really, things like an eye test, it's actually a legal obligation if somebody uses DSE. So people see through that stuff. So I think what I'm hearing is you want this to be presented as genuinely authentic, and make sure you're doing that assessment along the way, and maybe asking your people to give you a bit of critique too. I'm not sure who's next.
No, I think I'm next.
Margaret, sorry.
Yeah.
Margaret, actually, you're...
Yeah, so okay, so great advice for everyone. I think, firstly, you really don't need a huge budget to attract talent, but you do need to communicate your impact, values, and also the team ethos clearly and consistency. So just firstly about job descriptions, a lot of job descriptions, they read like legal documents. They're just really, really boring, so you want to make your job postings feel like human and purpose-led, inclusive. So you basically you want the job description that speaks to professionals' desire for impact and meaning, So I would actually start with your mission and why, So for example, we believe every child deserves access to joyful, tailored learning experiences regardless of ability, and then that our team is building tools that empower educators and unlock potential for children with special needs. You also want to use some accessible, inclusive language, So and also be explicit that you welcome applications from individuals of all backgrounds, including those with disabilities or lived experience in special needs education. I think also candidates who care about special education, they often value workplaces that understand that humans are complex too. So mention, either whether it's flexible hours or remote and hybrid options or empathy as a cultural value. I think all of that can help. In terms of your, I would also use your current team to tell the story. So you definitely don't need a fancy employer brand campaign. You already have the best advocates in-house. So your current team, they can show what your culture feels like through real stories, So the practical, completely free ways to leverage your team would be, for example, creating why I joined social posts or Loom videos. So ask your 2 or 3 team members or more from education, tech, or operations to share, why they joined, what working on this mission means to them, and maybe one moment that made them feel proud. And then you can post this on your company's LinkedIn, your careers page. You can actually post it in the job ad itself. I think that would be great as well. I would also feature any kind of team quotes in job descriptions or email, outreach. So obviously you can use the stuff that the people use in their videos. And maybe you can also build like a lightweight, live at whatever the company is called, page on your website or Notion. And then you can include mission and values and team testimonials and photos or looms from team sessions and any kind of insights into how you can support inclusive education internally. And just like finally, in terms of the hiring, partnering with some kind of special needs focused communities or forums. So reaching out to local schools or LinkedIn groups or organizations in the special education space. I think many people will be drawn to your mission if they know about it. And also asking candidates why this mission speaks to them in an interview, because that doesn't just test alignment, it actually reinforces your brand as well. But basically you don't need to look like a big company, and I think being small and genuinely mission-led, it could really be your superpower.
Yeah, thank
you very much. And last but not least, Lewis.
Yeah, thank you, Margaret. Some very good points there. So first and foremost, it sounds like a great company with awesome mission and vision. So I would really look at how you can be creative in really promoting and marketing that across various areas. First would be crafting a mission-driven, story-focused job description. Leading with impact. So start your job postings by highlighting the difference that the candidate will make. So help us to create tools that empower children with special needs to thrive in learning environments, for example, and share a short story. So include real antidotes to the work. So child's learning milestones achieved by using your specific tool. So how and where are you adding value? And then just being transparent about your stage of growth. So people passionate about mission-driven work, that they really appreciate honesty. So you could say we're a seed stage team. You'll have the chance to shape processes, products, and culture from the ground up. Just being really authentic in that aspect, rather than using fluffy job descriptions that are drawn out and are saying a lot without saying a lot. And then just to finish the answer to the question, I'd look at the cost-effective areas to amplify your employer brand. Social media is awesome in terms of low spend. So posting short stories, testimonials, or blog style updates on LinkedIn to really tell your story organically. Community engagement's also a huge win. So engage with special education communities, online forums, and local teacher networks. Often mission-aligned professionals see this as really authentic and appealing areas. That's
on
all.
fire today, team. Thank you very much to all four of you. Really appreciate those questions. If you really wanted to go further, one thing that I've noticed as we humans, as creatures that are all about impressing others, is if you can find a way to get people in the life of the people that already work for you to record something, as the most of the panelists mentioned, about what it means to them for their loved one, or whether it's the partner or the son or the daughter or the sibling or whatever, whoever you get to say what it means to them or their friends that this person is working with you, I think that could win quite a few brownie points, and it would help people relate in terms of the status that one has by working with a company that has a certain purpose. But apart from that, I'm not going to spend any more time to try and add to the brilliant stuff that the team has done. But we'll go to another question from Scotland. And okay, so this is much shorter. As the co-founder of a pre-seed AI startup in Glasgow, where we develop natural language processing tools, we're facing challenges with communication between our tech and marketing teams. How can we create a process for resolving conflicts early and fostering better collaboration between these two groups without creating a toxic work environment? That's quite an interesting one. Maybe we can start with James, and then maybe we can go on to Margaret, then Lewis, and then last but not least, Louise. So James, Margaret, Lewis, and then Louise, please.
Great question. So I have some experience, not in pre-seed, but in sort of Series A startups where this did come up quite a few times. And I always felt a lot of it started with really understanding a lot between the two, before alignment. So not to sort of rush a process, but to create that sort of empathy. So it's sitting both teams down. Obviously, your pre-seed, I'm sure they're very small. And just really ask one particular question. That could be, what does success look like for you as both teams? Because most conflicts I found start to really disappear when people actually understand each side's values and where they're looking to try to go. So it's making it sort of conflict safe but not silent. Because I found especially in early stage startups, when people are so busy and things are quite hectic, that sometimes silence can really be that killer, a lot faster than any sort of disagreement. So it's having simple rules, respecting intent, challenging ideas but not people, and always sort of end a meeting with a clear decision. So I think it's really been get the tech and marketing teams really solving one visible problem they have together. Because I think really nothing builds sort of trust faster than achieving something together, side by side. So yeah, it kind of models transparency, rewards a lot of honesty, and obviously creates that clarity going forward. And so you can set that kind of very early on. So that would be my suggestion on that side.
Okay, so it's me. So, well, firstly, I think it's kind of quite common because technical and marketing teams approach problems from very different angles. Like engineering prioritizes precision and scalability, feasibility, and for marketing, it's positioning, urgency, and user outcome. So, what I would actually say, maybe starting with like a one-page product brief for major features, releases, or campaigns. That would be like you need basically a set definition of success. So maybe like a one-page product brief, for major features, releases, or campaigns that will be reviewed both by tech and marketing, right? So you would want to include what are we building and why, who is the target user or segment? What outcomes are we trying to drive? Is it engagement? Is it demos? Is it conversion? What's the MVP versus ideal vision? Because when you do that, that will not just reduce misalignment from the start, but both teams actually contribute to defining the why, behind what you're building and marketing. And also, our company does always like retros, so maybe you can introduce like a lightweight kind of like a collaboration contract, like ask like what's working well between us, what's been frustrating or unclear, how do we want to give feedback, how often should we sync and in what format, and then you can maybe create a very simple ways we work together document. Could be on Notion, could be just a Google Doc, and basically what you would want to define like communication norms, is it Slack, is it async, is it versus like async doc, is it a live call? Also like when to bring each other in. So for example, marketing needs to be looped in before design starts. And also what's the feedback style? Do you want Notion suggestions? That's what our company does. Do you want Loom comments? So when you do that, that will actually create some safety and clarity, because most conflict stems from assumptions. And then, like use a single source of truth for cross teamwork. So again, we use Notion at Mixmax, but you can use Notion, you can use Trello, and you want to document roadmaps with both technical and go-to-market dependencies, meeting notes with next steps and owners, decisions with rationale. And I would actually do it on Notion versus like on Slack. I think messages can really get lost. So yeah, I would use a single source of truth. And then like maybe also before a major launch or campaign, ask each team what could go wrong, what misunderstandings might occur, what support or context you actually need from each team, and then you can have them share answers in one async document or like a 20-minute call, because that will like any kind of friction points, you will discover any kind of friction points before they cause conflict. And yeah, and then I think finally, you also want to train yourself and your leadership team to like model this kind of non-defensive inquiry. So instead of why didn't we, do this time, or why didn't this go out on time, just ask them like, can you walk me through what happened? What blockers came up? Help me understand. How can we make the process smoother next time? So this actually protects culture because it reduces blame, builds that kind of psychological safety that you can't make a mistake, and also it encourages solution thinking. So so basically, I don't think you need a heavy process. You just need clear expectations. You need that mutual visibility and psychological safety.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Yep, go.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think the first and most important realization and thing to consider is this is natural, right? Teams don't get on, or typically there are challenges in terms of conflicts happening and occurring when you are scaling from Series A all the way through to IPO and beyond. So it's natural, it happens, and it's a part of the growth that you need to work through. I would suggest and highly recommend just using a simple conflict resolution framework and basic collaboration, right? Collaboration, communication is absolutely key here. So number one, shared goals. What do I mean by that? So define what success looks like from the very start with both teams to make sure everyone across the business and involved in this project is aligned. Make sure KPIs or deliverables align with the campaign results and product adoption, for example. Regular communication, something that I alluded to shortly, just a second ago, but short weekly cross-team meetings. So whether that's updates, whether that's touch points in terms of blockers and decisions, then to use shared tools. So that could be Notion, as Margaret alluded to, Trello or Jira to track tasks and dependencies. My third step would be conflict resolution. So peer level discussions to resolve any conflicts, team lead mediations if required. And then the final and third point would be the founder escalations, only as a last resort. Fourth stage would be to foster psychological safety, let's say. So engage open, respectful discussion on mistakes, celebrate the wins, and to promote understanding of each other's workflows. And then the fifth and final stage is continuous improvement. So this part of the framework is monthly check-ins to review collaboration, effectiveness, and then adjust processes based on feedback and just any lessons learned during that. So I'd use that simple one-page framework to create consistency, to create alignment, and to create a success of that specific project. Hope that helps.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Lou, please.
Hello. I would add one very specific exercise. So I think goal setting and co-creating that is an excellent way to align people on the fact that the tech team have nothing to build without marketing, and marketing have nothing to sell without the tech team. So I think sometimes that gets lost, especially in startup world where, everybody's stretched and stressed and emotions and tensions can often run high. One of the ways that I introduce or start goal setting sessions, is to consider stakeholders. And it's often a step that's missed at every level in any type of business. But before you start talking about what is it that we want to achieve, whether that's quarterly, 12-month, whatever the time frame is, what stakeholders do we have and what do they expect? So that could be externally, your customers, that could be regulators, it could be anybody externally, but also internally, there are expectations that exist. And I found this to be really powerful on teams where there are tensions, where there is conflict, because you're not seeking agreement. You're just acknowledging that those expectations exist. So it's hard for people to stay there, and it does require some strong facilitation. And I emphasize facilitation because leaders shouldn't really step into offering up opinion, but actually holding people in a position of, I have to consider, if you're the tech team, what expectations the marketing team have of us before we start setting goals for the next quarter. And it's incredibly powerful. It helps people to sort of disarm a bit. And I think I would recommend probably doing that exercise separately initially for the marketing and the tech team. And what you'll probably find is one of the outcomes of that, or certainly actions, is that there's some sort of mediation that's required between the two teams. But you're entering that conversation, you know, as you build then the other areas that the others have suggested, from a place of both teams accepting, not agreeing, but accepting they have stakeholders that have expectations, and how are they going to build that into the goals that they're setting for the team. The realization really is that they need each other. But it's incredibly powerful. And if it's done in that way, it creates that psychological safety for people to be honest. And they lose that sense of loss, which can often happen in these situations, right? If I agree with their expectations, that means I'm not going to be heard, or mine matter less. It's not about that at all. So people don't feel that sense of loss, and actually ultimately people feel heard. And until they feel heard, they won't be ready to move on. So it's a very short, sweet, it can be an hour-long session to really get people to just acknowledge this is the reality and how are we going to move past it.
Thank you very much, Tim. In my experience, both by leading teams, being a founder, or being a talent partner, the top three things that kind of fester conflict, let's say, are number one, a them versus us approach. Number two, a lack of clarity from leadership, whether it's the founder or other leadership. And I guess number three, it's not tackling it head on straight away. So one of the things I've seen work well, and I've implemented a few times, is especially early stage, you can easily do this where you get people to do, I don't know, half a day every month or whatever it is, and rotate between different teams. That way they forge these relationships with each other. Number two, and I know this isn't very popular with most people, but if there's, especially early stage, if there's any conflicts, make it clear to people that they can both parties can come and should come to you straight away as soon as they see that, you know, they're not going to resolve that. And that is not the culture you actually want long term, for people to come and cry to you every time there's a problem. But initially, until you kind of eventually, because you see, we all talk about, oh, I want to implement this culture and that culture and all that jazz. Culture is not what you tell people to do. Culture is what happens while you're running your business. So if you have this very close-knit way of doing things at the beginning, eventually those core people, if you don't lose them, that is, will understand what you know, the kind of ways you want that business to run. So if you find a way for them to come to you straight away once they've realized that they can't sort it between themselves, I think that can help. And obviously, again, going back to what I mentioned at the beginning, that clear instruction and leadership from you is really important. And unfortunately, you know, a lot of people think, oh, you know, I don't want to get involved in how people work with each other. And yes, there is a fine line between you treating people like children and you kind of wanting to be involved, but clarity, it's key. Right, we've got 12 minutes to go. I think we've got time for some more questions, but again, quick reminder to those on the live streams especially. This is Startup Talent Q&A 168. We're doing this to help founders with whatever questions you have in terms of helping you on your talent journey to find and keep the right people, really. The idea is quite simple. If you're on the call here, simply drop your question in the chat. We'll give you the mic and you can ask the team. You've only got 12 minutes to go, by the way. If you're on the live streams, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, just be aware that unfortunately we are unable to monitor your questions there live. So if you do want to ask our brilliant panelists, you'll have to join us quickly here on Microsoft Teams. It's audio only, which means you can tune in from anywhere via any platform or device. And in terms of questions, there literally are no wrong questions. And there's no need to be shy because it's a learning curve. for us all. So if you do want to make that switch from the live streams to here, simply go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club. Find today's session, just scroll down a little bit, you'll see Startup Talent Q&A 168. Once you've found that, you click join. It's a quick registration, and that you'll get a link to your email, and through that link you can join us here. Just a quick reminder, if your questions today are not on talent, please save them for the other conversations we run. We run 6 Q&As. On Mondays it's talent, as you can see today, but then Tuesdays it's product and tech, Wednesdays it's growth, Thursdays it's fundraising, second Friday of each month it's UK startup law, and third Friday of each month it's UK startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, and they're all available via our website, startuptoscaleup.club. Actually, when you join us there, what you may also want to do is, when you go on the website, that is join our WhatsApp community. We've got some amazing groups of founders, investors, operators, our talent specialists, and so on. And at the top and bottom of our website, you'll find a WhatsApp icon that you can tune in from. Now, let's go on to our next question. By the way, when you make it here onto Microsoft Teams, if you want to ask us, simply drop your question in the chat and we'll give you the mic to ask the team. So, as one of 4 co-founders of a pre-seed biotech startup in Leeds, where we develop algae-based biofuels for clean energy solutions, we're concerned about retaining our core team of scientists and engineers. Number 1, with limited funding for large salary increases, how can we use non-financial incentives to keep our employees engaged and motivated? Number 2, what strategies can we implement to offer growth opportunities to our small team, in particular as our product development enters its next phase? That's quite a tricky one, especially for biotech. Let me see, maybe we can start with Lou, Margaret, Lewis and James. What would you do here?
A couple of things spring to mind. I think looking at learning and development opportunities. So one of the things that you can do in those very, very early days is looking at what budget could you allow and taking a bit of a self-led approach to it. So having people apply if there's something that they want a bit of budget for. I've done that in startups where that could be anything from books for a course that they're doing to attending a conference, but that's a great way to get return on your investment as well. So rather than just looking at salary increases, that type of thing, where else could you invest in people that actually also benefits the business as well, and thinking ahead to the skills that you might need to grow going forward. The other thing is autonomy, right? Giving people the autonomy to, and particularly for scientists and engineers, to be creative and to have the freedom to do that without the constraints that business operations can often impose. One of the really fun things that I recommend to do with this type of talent is anarchy days, right? So I've mentioned it here before, but maybe not even telling them that it's going to happen, but actually, scheduling some time, whether that's a white live, a town hall, or whatever it might be, and allowing these people to problem solve, creatively without anybody in the way, and giving them that freedom and autonomy. You can throw real business problems at that as well, and allow them to just go ahead and come up with the best possible solutions. It's a lot of fun. It's really engaging for people, and I don't think I've ever run an anarchy day where the business didn't benefit operationally from it as well. I think both of those things probably answer part 2, but I think when you're thinking of growth opportunities in small teams and looking at scientists and engineers, there's probably a cohort of those at least that you might need to take on leadership roles in the future. So if that's getting them involved in the early days of the operational side of the business, just building their understanding of business models, of how you make money, of leading, and actually solving some problems, getting some systems and processes, all of the things that we're talking about today, right? They don't just have to sit in HR and a people and culture role, they're leadership responsibilities. So I think you can create opportunities for people to grow outside of just, you know, a very linear or assumed career path.
Thank you very much, Lou. I think we said Margaret, didn't we?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so well, salary is obviously just one part of what motivates top talent. I think in general, in any kind of business, I imagine that these people working on clean energy, they want to feel like the work matters, right? So you basically don't want to like let the day-to-day stress erode the bigger picture, you know. So basically like remind the team of the real world relevance of the work, right? Maybe share updates from potential customers or collaborators. Like basically you want to connect those the technical work to real world use cases. And even if you can't offer big salaries, can you potentially offer equity, you know? And also like what does it mean, you know, when and how might vest. So in a way, maybe you can frame the role as the founder of the science, you know, not just an employee. I think recognition and ownership is very important, like really being able to recognize key milestones and maybe let team members present findings to investors, advisors, or early partners, and maybe also like give them ownership of specific work streams or experiments. Just if you know trust them to lead, because people will stay like when they feel seen and respected, and that's sometimes more important than the salary. I think another thing that doesn't cost anything and can help is you know, either flexible hours or I don't know, can they do like remote data analysis or research days, you know, in general, like you kind of want to, if you can create that culture of flexibility and trust, I think that can help as well. And you know, can you also invite them into like strategic decisions? You know, can you bring your team to like occasional founder level conversations, whether it's about like product roadmap or any kind of partnerships? You know, that can also build emotional ownership and, you know, reduce attrition later. Like if they really invested intellectually in the direction of the company. So yeah, that's all for me. And I will need to drop off in 4 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Margaret. And last but not least, James, please.
Yeah, amazing. So yeah, I've been fortunate enough to hire for, you know, startups, engineers and scientists, and all the way up to Meta. And I really found, you know, speaking to them, that, you know, they really are sort of problem solvers at heart. You know, they really want to know that their work matters. So I feel as though the most sort of powerful sort of non-financial incentive you can offer is really ownership of impact. You know, show them how their daily work connects directly with your mission. So, you know, obviously you talk about cleaner energy, you know, better planet, you know, real world legacy. So really when people see, you know, the why behind the work, you know, they'll definitely stay through the how. And to the second question, you know, is to really build growth, but through more exposure than job titles. So in small teams, you know, you just, obviously it's impossible, you can't always promote vertically, but you can definitely grow people horizontally. So just give them the visibility in investor meetings, because obviously you can do that, and kind of a pre you know, seed. You can rotate project leads, you know, let them present results to stakeholders. It just stretch them way, you know, sort of beyond their job description, so they just feel like they're continuing to expand, they're not stagnating, and actually they're getting quite a lot of opportunity which they wouldn't naturally get in other businesses. And just create rituals of recognition, you know, create those and celebrate those milestones, even in, you know, even if it's just really small, but publicly acknowledge effort. You know, sometimes in the grind, especially in R&D, you know, progress can sometimes feel invisible, but just make it more visible. So I think those are just some of the things I would look at from obviously business stage at the moment.
Thank you very much to all of you, really appreciate it. Margaret, before we let you go, any parting words for us?
No, I mean, I think just attend live. It would be so much better if we could actually ask people some more probing questions. It's always, yeah, I think, you know, it's nice to answer some of these questions offline as well. And I do realize that not everyone can attend live, and they still want to get their questions answered. But if you can attend live, I think that would really help. It's just so much more interactive. Like last week we had live questions. It was just much more interactive discussion.
absolutely agree with you on that. Thank you very much for your support there. James?
No, so no, I definitely would echo that as well. So I mean, fantastic questions. Enjoyed answering them. Hopefully, I've been able to give some answers to which can give you some different thoughts. And yeah, anytime attending these, definitely live is obviously always going to be better. But again, yeah, thanks for the questions. Thanks for having me. And yeah, hopefully look forward to another one. Thanks again.
Much appreciated, and thank you very much. And yes, we definitely look forward to having you all join us again. Just before my parting words, I guess a couple of things worth mentioning. Number one, this was Startup Talent Q&A 168, I think. We run 6 regular sessions per week. On Mondays, as you saw today, it's talent. On Tuesdays, it's product and tech. On Wednesdays, it's growth. On Thursdays, it's fundraising. Second Friday of each month is UK startup law. And third Fridays of each month, it's UK startup finances. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. And they're all available on our website, startuptoscaleup.club. You can register to any future sessions via our website, startuptoscaleup.club. We also have, and I'm now posting in the chat here, some amazing WhatsApp communities, and we've got some groups specific to these sessions that we run, but we also have some other groups for other themes. And I've just posted actually the Startup Talent Q&A WhatsApp link here in the chat that people can join, and you can send questions ahead. You can discuss stuff that we touched on here. You can get help post Q&A. You can connect with other founders and our talent experts and so on. In terms of my parting words, just remember the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun in the meantime, and be kind to yourself and everyone else for that matter too. Otherwise, hopefully we'll see you tomorrow for Startup Product and Tech Q&A. We've got some amazing product and tech experts that hopefully will be able to help you with whatever questions and need for clarity you have on that journey, let's say from idea to a product roadmap, all the way to MVP and even beyond for that matter. So have a great afternoon. Thank you very much to everyone, and God bless you all. Bye-bye for now.